Today, we're going to take a look at all the ways you can enhance your universe mode with ChatGPT to book storylines and create chaos. If you want some other ways besides ChatGPT to enhance your universe mode, click up in the top right corner and check out that video. The first way ChatGPT can help you out is if you have two opponents ready to go for a PLE match, but you're not really sure what the build should really be about. For my example, I have Jey Uso, who's the World Heavyweight Champion, and he's going to take on Finn Balor at Money in the Bank. You know, this is a B-level pay-per-view. It's in between big matches of Gunther and then probably in real life Seth Rollins SummerSlam. So you're expecting Jey Uso to win, but you want to create it to be an interesting rivalry even if you pretty much know you're going to have Jey Uso win. So for this, I'm having trouble coming up with something on my own. So I decided let's give ChatGPT some background on this match, give some background on Judgment Day, and then we'll let it take the reins. Tell me what a good idea for the story should be, and let it play out. I think it's a good idea in your prompts to include as much background information as possible. I didn't really do it in this prompt just because it's an example, but if you have something that's a reason for Finn Balor being the challenger, maybe a long win streak, maybe trying to finally regain a title after, almost a decade, add that in. Make sure your prompt is well structured, well thought out, because it can give some really cool stuff. But even if you don't go too much into detail on this sort of thing, it gives you some really cool stuff. Like, it did a good job of including different members of Judgment Day. It even, towards the middle, added Sami Zayn, who's Jey Uso's ally in real life, into the mix. And that makes it a little more interesting because maybe you didn't have anything to do with Sami, so now Sami's involved in something. And ChatGPT just does a really good job of making your universe mode feel more alive by incorporating even someone like Cody Rhodes, who I didn't even ask it to. If you wanted to, I would say, if you wanted specific superstars to randomly enter the rivalry, get involved, put it in the prompt, but even if you don't, it could still happen. And ultimately, this is a lot better than what I would have came up with. And ultimately, I think this is something that you all should use if you don't really have a reason for two people needing to fight, but you want them in a PLE match. The next way you can use ChatGPT to help you enhance your universe mode is by, instead of focusing on maybe 1 month PLEs, little short-term storylines, you can also use it to come up with some really great long-term storytelling. In this example, I decided to do a 3-month-long rivalry where I helped Jacob Fatu really enter that main event scene while also making Cody Rhodes look like the star that he is. And I have it actually starting at SummerSlam, an A-level PLE, going all the way to Bad Blood, incorporating different match types, and I made sure to give this prompt some depth to it. You can even give it more, build up maybe Jacob Fatu and say how great he is as a US champion, how dominant he is, how maybe in your case he overtook Solo, certain things like that to kind of build him up to give ChatGPT more to work with. For this example, I didn't go too in depth with it. I just made sure it understood that 4 Raws before each PLE, and then I wanted it to end in the Hell in a Cell match at Bad Blood. So if you have any specific match type you want included in this, make sure to include it in this as well. And then basically just let it do its thing. It did a great job of including different types of promos, backstage interviews, and then different matches incorporating different superstars. Even had Solo help at one point, even though I didn't even ask it to, but did a great job of understanding who's involved in his alliances in the Bloodline. And then it did a great job of developing each match. It went from a regular match and to, I believe, like a Street Fighter no DQ match, and then ultimately it correctly had that Hell in a Cell match. So make sure to add your depth, but also another way to go about this besides telling it you want a 3-month feud, because this seems maybe a little bit too played out for you, maybe too rehearsed and structured. Another way you can go about it is do the same thing you did the last prompt in part 1, which was just have it do a month-long feud. And then once you do that, maybe put the results into a new prompt and tell it, okay, now structure the second month of this feud as it's going to continue. And then you play it the second month. You insert the results of that into another prompt and have to do a third month. That way, maybe you don't know the entire story from the beginning, and it's more exciting for you to go month by month and keep telling it to add to the feud. That's another way to do it, but for me personally, I like just telling it to do the 3-month feud, plan it all out ahead of time, and then make some changes where I need to if it seems a little bit weird. But ultimately, it's a great setup, and being able to tell ChatGPT a couple of 3-month storyline helps you plan in advance, because now you know what your Hell in a Cell match is going to be, so now you know which feuds should not be in that match type at that PLE, and it helps you really be more constructive and figure out your plans for the future of your universe mode. ChatGPT could also do a great job of enhancing your universe mode with promos. So in the last 2 parts of this video, when you ask it to come up with a 1 month or 3 month long story, something like that, it lays the plan out for you. But when it comes for promos, it just gives a quick 1-sentence description of what the promo is, but doesn't actually fill in the entire promo of text in the back and forth. So for this, when this comes up in my universe mode, I will then go into ChatGPT, I'll create a new session, and in there I'll give background on the two superstars. For an example, here we have the Intercontinental Champion Dominic Mysterio and the challenger Sheamus. I gave background on how Dominic won the Intercontinental Championship and how Sheamus, he's been searching for this title for a long time, not having won it yet, where he's lost it, things like that, to give ChatGPT some background on what to really talk about. So this is how you enhance those promos. Now I'm just going to scroll through it really quick. You can read it on your own. It does a great job of referencing what I've been talking about, like how Dom won against Breaker, Balor, and Penta, and how, you know, Sheamus has never won the IC title, how he's lost it. Everything's referenced, and it does a great job of really fleshing out what you're seeing on your screen when you just do the quick universe mode promos, because there's no talking, no text, obviously. So this gives you a good idea on how to enhance your promos, but you got to make sure you obviously add in that depth in your prompt to make sure ChatGPT does a good job of explaining what you want to see in your story mode based on the story you're telling or the story that ChatGPT already told you to tell. ChatGPT could also be a great way to figure out who the next challenger for your championship in universe mode should be. Right now, John Cena is my champion, and I'm honestly not sure who he should fight next. Randy Orton's a possibility, CM Punk, Drew McIntyre. So there's a couple ways you can go about this. In this first example of how ChatGPT can figure this out, is I'm just going to tell him to make it a fatal 4-way. I kind of have trouble in universe mode figuring out how to really set up triple threats, fatal 4-ways, that kind of thing, because I kind of get lost in the rivalry actions, and it's hard to really do that when you only have 1-on-1 and 2v2 rivalry slots. But if you give ChatGPT the reins, it can really fill in the pieces for you, and then everything it says to do, you can then use the force rivalry actions, whatever it is. I think is it called open? I forget. You can pick any rivalry action you want, even if people aren't in a rivalry. I think it's free is the action, free rivalry actions. And then just do whatever it tells you, because this does a great way of really setting it up. The only issue that I kind of see is when it just promos for these kind of triple threats, fatal 4-ways, it has promos with all the members involved, which unfortunately it cannot do in universe mode. But I mean, you can play it out however you want, and you can play the promo maybe out in your head, and then the matches where it sets up match brawl finishes, backstage brawls, such and such, leading to an eventual finish that makes sense. You can just do those in game, then put the promos in your head, as it really just builds a good story for you, makes your universe mode feel real. And honestly, it does a far better job than I typically do with fatal 4-ways, triple threats. So that's one of the biggest things that I use ChatGPT for, is has a really good understanding of how these match types are set up. Another way ChatGPT can help you find the challenger for one of your champions is, instead of making it just a triple threat or fatal 4-way to maybe have a finish that sets up something else in the future, you can just give it some background on each potential challenger, and then have ChatGPT come up with a different storyline to start that feud with each challenger and pick out the best one. In this example, I have Money in the Bank coming up for John Cena's WWE title. I have CM Punk, Drew McIntyre, and LA Knight as all potential opponents. So I gave background on each. Like for CM Punk, I mentioned they're longtime rivals. Punk got pinned by Cena at Elimination Chamber. Then for Drew McIntyre, he's been dominant recently, got to win at Mania. He keeps getting screwed over in a lot of chances that he has. Like he got screwed over against Damon Priest a couple times, at least he believes that. He had the CM Punk feud, he believes screwed him out of the world title picture, stuff like that, at Mania when he got cashed in on. And then for LA Knight, you know, he's not a younger superstar, but he's only been here for a little bit. Had a couple of US title reigns, and he's trying to really reach the mountaintop after his long career so far, and finally getting to WWE. So with that, I allowed ChatGPT to create storylines based off of all the background I gave, and it gives really good ones. Obviously, make sure that you include the time frame for each build-up, because some PLEs obviously have less Raw and SmackDowns in between each PLE, so make sure you also incorporate that to make it line up with your universe mode. And with that, I got some good rivalries going. I gave a great one for CM Punk called The Last Chapter, which include everything I explained. Same thing with Drew McIntyre, Robbed and Reloaded. And then for LA Knight, yeah, versus Legacy, that one I thought was cool. And did a great job with LA Knight's character, at least in the description, to come with this rivalry. So I think for my universe mode, I'm going to go with LA Knight, make it fun, mix it up on that build up to SummerSlam. Another thing ChatGPT can help you with for universe mode is forming and breaking up factions and tag teams. For this example, I have a prompt set up for Trick Williams getting called up from NXT. He's going to align with the Street Profits. I really like this new Trick Williams character where it's now heelish, but he needs really a group to help him stand out for the US Championship scene, and I think the Street Profits are the perfect tag team for this. It doesn't make complete sense because the Street Profits are a face tag team, but ultimately, they're the only ones I see really fitting Trick Williams' style, so I'm going to have them turn heel, and I'm going to make sure to add this in the prompt so it makes sense, along with the important details of saying that Trick Williams will be in the US title scene, and ultimately making sure it sets up the right timeline of 4 episodes of SmackDown per PLE for the specific PLEs I have in my universe mode, and ultimately I want it to make sure that it's having them align over that build, not an immediate alignment. It's going to be a slow build into it along that time frame, and did a great job this 2 months of setting up this faction. I didn't really know where to go with this, but ChatGPT did a great job of having it start as a slow build as a backstage segment. Obviously, you can't replicate that in universe mode, but maybe you could have it replace it with a promo for it to make sense. And then did a good job of trying to set up where are they aligning, are they not, before the ultimate alignment does happen. So it does a great job making it a slow burn, but then ultimately bringing in the tag team to mix with Trick Williams and help him get involved with that Jacob Fatu storyline that I wanted to end out with SummerSlam. And did a great job of also bringing in Solo Sikoa at one point. It brought in a couple names I didn't like and didn't make sense at all, but obviously you can go ahead and switch those out for other names that do make sense. Like in this case, for some reason brought in Kevin Owens, I would switch it out for Tama Tonga. Bobby Lashley was mentioned, but that's whatever, I could just disregard that specific point in the story. But for the most part, it set it up well, making it all flow well together, and generally it does this. If I went a little bit further in my prompt explaining more details, it probably would have worked out a little bit better. But for this example, a quick explanation of what I wanted, it did a great job and made really a story that would have been much better than what I would have come up with myself. And it typically does this and does a great job of forming these new groups. ChatGPT can also help you break up factions and tag teams. I decided to end Judgment Day, and I gave it some background info who the current members are, just so it doesn't get confused with past members like Rhea Ripley and Damian Priest. And ultimately, I didn't tell it which sides I wanted it's kind of split on, but you could do that if you want. Like you could say Finn Balor and JD McDonough go one way, the rest go the other way, something like that. But I just let it be how it was. But I explained how Dominic Mysterio won the IC title by pinning Finn Balor at Mania. That kind of indicates to ChatGPT that that's where the feud should like be caused by and allow the breaking point to happen. And then I also had it happen over 3 months with 4 episodes of Raw in between each. Ultimately, the first couple of tries, I got kind of a mixed bag of stuff I liked and stuff I didn't. So I kept adding more detail just a little bit as I went on. And ultimately, the last one, I got the third one, was the best. It was a little bit weird with Liv kind of not being sided where she'd obviously be sided with Dom. But I thought generally it ended up being pretty good. Even JD, who was with Finn at first, was with him, but then kind of turned towards the end. So it allowed a twist where you'd think JD would go with Finn because of how long they've known each other and that friendship. But it ended in a kind of a chaotic fashion where instead of like a tag team finish, Finn was left all alone to fight Dom at SummerSlam for the IC title. And the group was a mixed bag of whether hating Finn or being indifferent. And it was just so more creative than something that I would have came up with. I would have just did a simple, oh, it's Finn and JD versus Dom and Carlito, whatever finish. But this had a lot of depth to it, being mixed, wanting the group to stay together. Some was wanting it to end and screw Finn. It was really creative, and you guys should use it when you're breaking up your factions in universe mode, because it adds a lot more depth than a lot of us can come up with on our own. And this also works for tag team breakups as well. It's very similar to the faction. I have the 2 superstars of the tag team, which is in this case, it would be Liv Morgan or Raquel Rodriguez. But I think Raquel has more potential as a solo star as well as she used to be. So I gave it just a 2-month timeline. I didn't really once again tell it which side would be the heel and the face and who would break up with who, that kind of thing. I just said, give it some tension, have it start before Money in the Bank and end at SummerSlam. And it did its thing. It did a great job of just building that tension within the first month. They ultimately lost the tag team titles, and that led to the breakup. and then ultimately that match at SummerSlam. So yeah, basically that's a great way to do it. It works for tag teams or factions. And that's all I got for you today. And that's all I got for you today, guys. There's a lot more things you can do with ChatGPT in terms of like drafting superstars and other rivalries, mixing things up. So if you guys have any other ideas on what you guys do that I didn't include here, let me know in the comments. That's going to be it for me today. I appreciate you guys all watching. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content.